Every once in a while, I bring you some valuable insights, some valuable ideas to help you build your businesses even better. Today is going to be a great day because I have with me here a dear friend, a colleague, an ex-colleague. We work together at Unilever Food Solutions. I have Stuart Jones. Stuart, how are you doing?
Oh, Ramez, I'm good. You?
Wonderful. Very humbly, I would say, Stuart, in a way, guided my initial path in Unilever. And then together we ended up co-creating something that revolutionized the way that the food solutions business worked at the time. And we ended up cascading it and driving it. And the biggest topic in here is the concept of managing through others and managing through third party, through distributors, and how do you drive the pull out from the customers. But before we dive into the topic, I really want to spend a bit of time to kind of ask Stuart, what have you been doing over the last decade or so in your in your life, man?
It's like a decade since we worked together, I guess, but we were working together for 10 years. So I think we've been working together on and off for 20.
Absolutely.
I've been working on and off for 30. From the bottom to the top in sales and marketing, starting in brand marketing, and then going through customer. And finding my sweet spot in the food service market, which is a bit of both sales and marketing. And for the last 20 years, actually, I've been specializing in developed market, underdeveloped markets or rapidly developing markets like the Middle East and Africa. Mm-hmm. I've been based down in South Africa for the last 20 years. And yeah, I've been working in the food service sector for the vast majority of that. Still doing so. I'm loving it.
Absolutely. Stuart was actually leading the food service division as the sales and marketing director for the AMET region or the AMEP.
The sales director for Middle East, South Africa, Middle East, across to Pakistan.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So he spent some time with us here in the Middle East. He actually was behind Unilever, or was behind me at the time, looking at alternative ways of route to market. And I remember you said something to me the other day, Ramez, I spent the last, 10, 15 or 20 plus years promising or fulfilling promises to shareholders. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Stuart?
Look, I've done a lot of marketing in my life, but I'm a trained marketeer and a natural salesperson. And I love sales. And I've been, the last 20 years or so, I've been on leadership teams or boards as a sales director, effectively. And the buck stops with you. So if you have to deliver the growth that you promise.
Right.
If the shareholders and the business or the CEO want 2 or 3% growth, you can't just say you're going to give it to them. You've got to find out, or you've got to find a way to definitely give it to them. And I don't like making unfulfilled promises. Mm-hmm. So I've developed a set of techniques and processes to try and control that growth and make sure that I deliver the promise.
Right. Yeah, I think here, the percentages are just maybe a symbol, because I know the percentages are not just 2 or 3%. They're usually in the double digits, high double digits, and being able to do that. And one thing I think you once told me, Ramez, I like surprises, but only for my birthday, but yeah. not on the sales results. And today, many business leaders, sales leaders, in a way, are leaving it up to chance. They're leaving it up to chance. Markets are growing. There's natural organic growth is happening, and they're pretty much, I would say here, dependent on the natural growth of the market. And today, as it's becoming more and more competitive, it's just definitely not sustainable. And here today to give you some of the insights in terms of, what can you do as a, as a leader in sales, whether you are managing a direct sales team, your direct team, or whether you're managing a team of a distributor. So managing through a third party, really some principles that you can apply to take your business to the next level, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Look, just to build on what you said, when I first started working in my 20s in the UK and in Europe, growth, even of 2%, was so hard fought.
Yeah.
You had to fight for market share. Every execution you had to do had to be excellent.
Right.
That's where the real skills were actually learned. And then you would move to somewhere like Africa or the Middle East, where growth was so easy for 10 or 15 years, that, the skills weren't developed locally. That now you've got to fight for every percentage. Sometimes those percentages are big, but only normally when you open a new market or you go to something new. You still got to fight for the way you used to, for one share at a time, one store at a time. And I learned those skills back in the day as opposed to in these areas of great growth.
Absolutely. I think this is some of the fundamentals that we brought together when we partnered in the Unilever days, is coming from a direct sales, door-to-door experience, and then bringing
He used to sell knives. That's how he started.
Yes. To then being able to really to learn more about the concept of solution selling, of concept sales, especially within the food service industry. So I'd like us to dig into what makes selling to food service different than maybe selling to a retail, from a retail perspective.
It's so much more complex. It's so much more exciting. It's multi-level. You have to consider your customer, your customers' customers. You're building your customer's business, not your business.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to provide solutions to your customers, the operators. You can't sell product. A product is just a means to an end for them. And at the end of the day, it's a tool to make money or save money whilst making money.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day,
Money talks.
there's very little emotion in business, believe it or not. It's all about profit, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where the emotion comes is the menus and the creativity of your operator. But ultimately, they need cost-effective, trustworthy ingredients that provide consistency, that get their customers coming back all the time. But you've got all these different people and considerations to consider every time. So it's that complexity that really appeals to me. And in terms of controlling those sales, you need to think of all of these elements as you do the process.
So a few things. Multi-level, I used to be in direct sales or multi-level marketing. Is completely different. This is multi-level means there are different layers within the organization, whether it's the owner, the F&B, the chef, the sous chef, and the people that are actually using the ingredients to then create a dish, right? So they can then sell that dish and make it happen. I just start making that little comment there.
It's also multi-level because you normally sell through a third party. Mm-hmm. So in food service...
So if I'm a principal organization, if I manufacture certain ingredients, I'm selling through a third party. Very rarely would I have a direct sales force. So that's another complexity.
Yeah, the delivery economics of food service, which is a relatively small outlet compared to a big supermarket, needs small delivery drops. So delivery economics in food service doesn't make sense unless you've got a very big range. So most of the suppliers into the industry supply some sauces, some spices. So they work.
Items as well.
Yeah, maybe, but if it starts being center of plate, maybe they've got their own distribution. But in the main case, there is a distributor who has that big basket, and we're a relatively small part of his basket.
That's a really good point. So let's tackle this a little bit, because I think today this is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of the clients that I work with have, whether they are in food service or if they're working through a distributor. How do you get this control or share of mind And how do you ensure that that share of mind is properly channeled to deliver the results that are needed? So I know it's a loaded question, but just break it down one step at a time.
Yeah, look, there's numerous issues here. The main thing is to focus on the right product at the right customer channel, and provide a selling solution for that. But then you've got to target the sales force involved. That could be yours or it could be a third party. Got to give them a very specific target.
Like what? What type of targets?
Normally, specific sites. So
sites.
When I say sites, you might call restaurants, you might call them operators. I'm just using
outlets. Yeah,
outlet. I just use the word site, but each site is a new point of distribution for us. And the main way to grow in the food service sector, where you can't control the number of consumers coming into the restaurant, that's out of our control. So we can't control rate of sale. We can only control distribution. So the target that we will give a salesperson is new distribution, okay, for a new SKU. So the fastest growing SKU in a customer's portfolio would be the first target product line into a new distributor. So, a new distribution site. Yeah. So when you get a new distribution site, that rate of sale, say it was a tomato sauce, for example, that rate of sale is going to be consistent across the channels. So the target is normally new distribution in a target channel with a target SKU, okay, a profitable SKU. Then you have a monitor so that you know what the guy is doing. So, their sales time is organized. They know where they're hunting, and we're monitoring what they're doing every week. And then you need to align reward to that for everybody. So again, we talk multi-level. There is the management of the distributor. There is the regional manager. There is the rep. Okay. All of those guys and the customer have to make profit from your product. So all those levels of incentive need to be there. So target, monitor, and reward.
It's a very, very insightful concepts here, and I'm just going to dig a little bit. So, of course, we all know the basics that whatever you reward, whatever you measure, improves, and whatever you reward also kind of follows along the same path. But from what I'm understanding from you there, Stuart, is today the job of a distributor sales rep or a job of a salesperson is to grow business. They don't control the rate of sale, but they can control the penetration or the coverage of within the market.
Yeah.
So their job is to really go out and hunt. Their job is to go out there and drive additional outlets.
Add is the word.
Very good.
Add one new SKU to an existing customer, add to an existing outlet site, or add one new site. It's all about growing that distribution across the outlets, particularly in markets such as this, where you're based there in the Middle East. There are so many thousands of independents, 110,000 in Saudi alone, I think, independent restaurants and hotels. If you want to sell a product, a staple product like a chicken or a coffee creamer, you've got to get to all those outlets, and that's the challenge again. But you've got to pick the right partner, whether it's your own distribution or whether it's new distribution, and you've got to go out there and get more outlets.
Let's talk a bit about this targeting or about the monitoring. So, one of the challenges in this region is that there are very few organizations that have the infrastructure in place to properly monitor the whereabouts of the teams, the level of conversation, the focus of conversations. Are they meeting the right person, talking about the right product at the right frequency? Because again, selling a complex product, making it into a solution might require more than one visit. So if we know it takes 4 visits to make a sale of a certain recipe or a certain concept, and then you only visit the outlet once, then it's not gonna convert. So just from your let's say experience, what are you seeing ways of, where there is no technology, what are some of the best practices in monitoring? And when there is technologies, what are some of these tools?
Okay. Look, I mean, when we first started working together in food service 20 years ago, there was no data. The big difference between selling into retail and selling in food service was you had Nielsen data. There was so much data, you knew everything. In retail, in food service, we had none. So we've been on a data journey in the food service channel, trying to get data. And most distributors these days have a good source of data. The only problem is it's far too complicated. So every product is recorded, sold to every site, and you'll get a sales report that'll be 25,000 pages long. And that's completely useless to us. So the trick that's worked for me that I advise is just to keep the information really simple. All we need to know is which sites are we selling to, in which channels, and what SKUs are we selling. We do want to measure things weekly. The reason for that is I like to manage forwards, not backwards. If you only get monthly data, you can only look after your shoulder.
Yeah.
You can't look forward to the end of the month. But yeah, those are some of the key things I think with monitoring. It's then about the best form of electronics we can to get it to people rapidly, etc. Measuring where they are and where they travel, that's a very different area, obviously a very important area for managing a sales force. If I can't have that kind of technology and know that they're doing 8 calls a day with a sales CRM system telling them who to see, is it first visit, is it second visit, we potentially don't even want to drown in that kind of technology, to be honest. Not really.
Not now, at least.
I don't think so. But you can measure the results. So if I measure whether he's adding sites,
that's fine.
He might not be following your perfect process, but he's getting my results. If he's not getting results, then he's not doing what I've asked him to do. Okay, so I measure the results more importantly than actually the person's time. Look, some sales forces and some budgets and some companies have that kind of monitoring. And we've used it, so we've been using that kind of thing recently in South Africa. But it's not essential. That's what I'm saying. Don't drown in data. Just make sure you've got one analyst who can perform, some sales reports, and we can control the two.
Amazing. So thank you for that, Stuart. And one of the questions about data. So you said something very simple, right? You said go to specific outlets and go with specific SKUs, right? And what we end up, I'm going to share this with you, what a lot of my clients tell us is that even that basic level, is hard for them to implement because for whatever reason they get distracted. The team gets distracted. They end up being reactive. Clients call them, so they're not able to go. And there's I would say, some of when we did some time and motion studies with salespeople, we find out that a third of their time is spent selling, a third is sales admin, and a third is non-sales admin, like being in meetings or doing stuff that has nothing to do with selling. So just from your experience, how can you help leaders out there, get some ideas to free up the guys, the team, to be able to do more face-to-face time with customers?
There's a famous statement that I live by, but structure follows strategy. It's all about roles and responsibilities. So
once again, structure follows strategy. So strategy, what do we want to be in food service? What are we going after as a distribution organization or as a principal organization? So that let that end goal help you build the structure that you're going to deliver that.
Yeah, and it's the roles and responsibilities that different people have in the team. So what you're describing is a sales manager or somebody who's managing a sales region, not somebody who's growing it. So there are different roles, again, cliched, but push and pull. And in food service, we have to pull stock from a warehouse. If your customers are not pulling it out of the warehouse, no one's going to push it out of the door. So we often have a different role for managing the distributor or managing the accounts that phone you with problems, deliveries, customer service, as opposed to the prospecting person who is adding a new SKU to a new outlet, so that they have clarity of mind and clarity of time. Well, that might be 8 new prospect calls a day and no one calling him about problems because he's not the area sales, he's not the sales management person. He's the hunter-gatherer.
Got it. So what's really coming to mind here is, you talked about managing a territory versus growing a territory and being able to have the roles to be able to free up the sales hunters to go out and do the job. I was once talking with an MD of a direct sales force, and his team was actually probably was doing less than 20% selling time. And when just to kind of simplify, he had about 10 people on his team, and on average, let's say he's paying them 10,000 dirhams on a monthly basis. So 10 times 10 is 100,000, times 12 is 1.2 million. So I told them, imagine you're paying 1.2 million in salaries, but you're only getting 20% of that salary rate to deliver on your sales growth goals.
Yeah, look, you've got to look at it that the salary of the growth team must be paid by the growth.
Here you go.
The salary of the management team must be around the continuous business, but and you need to be careful of those margins and return. Look, sales force structure is quite complicated because the distributor, the way that they're probably operating, they're probably not prospecting for as much as they need to. And sometimes a client or a provider and an ingredient supplier may have their own pool team who's out there actually developing business.
Yeah.
The distributors are all different, but most of those guys are often focused on servicing an account and a customer base, and they're there just to take orders, right? They're orders.
Replenishers of orders.
Now, unfortunately, in terms of who we want to partner with, that's not really going to grow our brand through that partner. You need to understand who is going to grow the distribution.
So I love this conversation where today, whether you are running you manufacture certain products, ingredients, and you sell in retail today, many people know that growth is happening in food service, and they're deciding to let's just go food service. And in them, it feels like it's like a press of a button. Let's just find a distributor and let's just give them the products. And then the products are sold into distributor. So it's being pushed in, but then it gets stuck. It's not being pushed out. And that's what you're describing here is you got to realize, part of us, what we call kind of selecting our distributors, looking at criteria that actually, what criteria who must we partner with in order for us to achieve our goal, achieve our vision, achieve what we want to do. And that goes through identifying the multiple, the infrastructure, the capability of the distributor, their current reach, their current customers. Is it a match with our range of products? And, and do they have a complementary range? Because if I bring a certain product that is going to go alone as one item in a basket versus having already 5-6 items in the basket that I can add value within the client's organization.
Ramez, all of those things are consideration, right? So we will, we've often done this ourselves in the past. So if we're opening a new country or if we want to expand our distribution in food service, we've got to consider a lot of those items. But It's not a standard list. We go, depending on the client, you've got to customize a list of what you want. One of the things you missed out there was financial stability.
Of course. That's a given.
Yeah, well, not everyone always pays their bills.
Right.
At the end of the day, a distributor is actually running the bank for the clients. Okay, so they are a very important role financially between us and our customers. So there was just another consideration. But they have to have the right kind of data. They've got to have the right sales infrastructure, depending on what we want to do. So if we've got a pool team, then we only need somebody to do deliveries. Mm-hmm. But if we need to grow, then we need them to have a large sales force who has enough time to actually sell.
That's dedicated sales force or dedicated time, share of mind that we get from the distributor.
The share of mind, so firstly, dedicated in terms of process, that they would be out there not just servicing deliveries, they'd actually be trying to grow sales and have time. Mm-hmm. The challenge is then share of mind. So even if we had our own distribution business, the same thing is true. If you have your own distribution business, you've got a broad range. If you're a distributor, you've got a massive range. 10,000 outlet SKUs. So share of mind is everything. Mm. So it depends on us as a client, which range we've got, how important we are. We need to punch above our weight. Mm-hmm. So our objective is to always get more share of mind than our share of business. Okay. And there's numerous techniques to do that. Firstly, helping people. So if you help those reps or those managers at distributors to make more money, then they will like you. It's not all about being Father Christmas, but the principle is if a distributor can earn by adding new distribution for your range, then they're going to focus on it, right? So you get back to trading terms agreement, incentives. Same with the reps. Mm-hmm. They earn money on commission, most of them. Mm-hmm. And you can get double commission if you've got a new site, things like that. So it's all around alignment to get share of voice, alignment of everything from the incentives to the target, the monitor, the reward, aligning all of that across there. And then also communicating with them, your own services, training them. So they may well be an experienced sales rep in a region, but they've maybe not been trained very well to actually sell, let alone about your specific product. And that's where obviously your expertise always comes in, is training those guys. And they appreciate that. Absolutely. But you only do that with the partners you've chosen.
With the right partners, those that actually you give, and then you're going to get something in return. Actually, just building on what you said, when working with distributor sales teams, we actually went and identified the WIIFM. What is in it for me? And actually, money was one of the motivation. But what actually came even higher than money is actually certifications. I'm working with an organization, that is investing in me, that is allowing me to grow. Today I'm with this company. I'd like to stay with them, but I don't see myself, I want to learn, I want to grow, so people start, they start a sales job. I started selling knives 35 years ago. I never thought I'd build a career. I never thought I'd build a career in sales, but that's the reality today. I teach at the executive MBA level, at master's level, MBA level, and the number one job that all these MBAs will get, whether they are EMBA or whether they are MBAs or Masters of International Business, it's a business development role. If you're an EMBA, you're getting a director or a VP role. If you're an MBA, you're getting a manager or a director role. And if you're a master's student, you're graduating recently, your first job is a BDR, a DSR. You're going out there making things happen. So again, it's just these basic fundamentals that, as you said, it's understanding the WIIFM, and just learning is definitely something that people can benefit from. Building on what I've just mentioned, learning is a motivation, right? Not all people will have that yet. There is enough of them. But going back to the concept of selecting your distributors, and tell me a little bit about how do you prioritize who you work with and how you build the relationship. Not all, we know that not all customers are the same and are as important. All are important, but some are more important than others. Same thing with your distributors, right?
Yeah, 100%. Although I think we should probably talk about targeting outlets just now. But targeting the distributors, basically their logistics or their capabilities and their reach. How are their capabilities, the delivery logistics, national coverage, things like that, and their actual reach. How many customers could they get to? What portfolio do they have? So I mentioned about their financial status. The kind of portfolio that they have to sell is quite important. They need to have economic deliveries. Otherwise, their business won't be stable, et cetera, et cetera. So they need center plate items. They need a good portfolio. Potentially, they need a portfolio that's appropriate for our customer base. So, for example, we've got to have target channels. If it was a coffee bar versus a restaurant, we need a very different portfolio in that distributor for a coffee bar than we do for a restaurant. So we have different partners. Look, we just need to prioritize these guys and then focus, because investing in training and targeting and monitoring and rewarding, we only want to do that with a select few. And we generally work around a joint business plan with a leadership team to agree the priorities between us. Because if the relationship is not that important, then we're not with the right partner. So target them, then lock in with them, then deliver.
Right. I love that what you've mentioned. If it's if what we agree on is not important, right, then there is no point of us agreeing, right? So the beginning of a partnership is agreeing on a common goal, having a clear vision where the distributor and our, let's say as a parent principal organization, both of us have to be aligned. And when that is alignment, then there is magic that will take place moving in the market.
Alignment of all of these people is critical. And it goes beyond the distributor through to, as I said, the customers, and then the customers' consumers.
Right.
That's the beauty of food service marketing.
So, one of the things is when new companies or new organizations are setting up, building a new product, ingredient, etc., a lot of them target what we call the obvious targets. So that's the big organization, the chains, the one central office to many outlets. So you go do one deal and you can crack that. You got the factory now has some critical mass going, right? So anything you can share with us on that, Stuart, as part of a strategic approach in terms of how do you grow a food service, let's say business and operation.
Yeah, look, you and me often talk about one to many. It's at every level of the food service organization. So change is obviously easy to start with, believe it or not, but you obviously need good key account management skills. But you need a customized solution for a chain, because the brand identity of the chain and its following is based on their taste and their flavor. So it's always a customized product. So that's generally a different organization or a part of an organization that's different from the branded range that you also want to sell. The branded range, you can go from one to many with small chains, where a flexible, versatile product can then be adapted by their chef team with, for example, a little bit of chili in terms of a mayonnaise to give their signature. And they are normally flexible enough so a small chain, meaning 5 to 100, flexible enough to use a branded product. Remember, the brand is their brand still. So
it's not the...
Our brand is only trust and reliability and consistency. But then the independent...
Once I can trust, reliability, and consistency. So I have to be reliable. I have to deliver the product. I need to make sure that if they need it, I have it. reliable, so first trust again is about, it's always consistent.
It won't let you down.
And it won't let you down. So if I can deliver that to a chain, that's removing a headache, because if I have a core ingredient that's missing, that's changed, my entire flavors will change and it will be impacted, thus impacting my brand.
It's unlike a consumer brand where there's an emotional tie. In food service, the brand is that kind of functional reliability. Okay, it's sometimes also flavor profile. So a very popular consumer brand is one that consumers like.
Like so it's Heinz, for example.
For example. Yeah. So, then they...
Heinz ketchup.
Yeah. Heinz ketchup or Heinz mayonnaise. And then there is some brand value there that it's a number one brand or the number one brand in a market. Mm-hmm. And so that if you're a small chain, you want that base flavor because the consumers like it, and then you just tailor it.
Yeah.
So, brands are a bit different in food service. I think that's the main point.
Okay, so today I'll target chains. So that's one key distinction. And then eventually, once I cover those, let's say 80-20. So I have, theoretically, right? Mm-hmm. We have the right chains, then and only then I will possibly direct the efforts to go mass coverage, because now I'm going after the 80%, the 80% that represents the 20% or something like that.
Look, those chains are valuable but difficult. They're complex. You've got to have different recipes for everything. Your branded range needs to be the backbone of your business, but there is a lot more complex route to market. So the one-to-many that we talk about means that you generally have to go to the distributor and then out to the 100,000 restaurants in Saudi, or the 70,000 restaurants in UAE, or the 30,000 in South Africa. You've got to go through a distributor to actually get to those guys. A lot of businesses have been doing that for a long time, though. A lot of branded businesses don't customize. So chains don't really figure. And I've had a lot of experience with those kind of businesses. Unilever was one of those. Right. They don't customize anything. So if you want to buy Hellmann's product, you're going to buy a Hellmann's product. You're not going to buy a pink Hellmann's like a Heinz or whatever. So, so different approaches for different companies. But if you want to get to that broad independent base and balance your portfolio, generally got all your eggs in one basket with one chain or two chains, and you've got no security if that chain changes its recipe or changes its ingredient. So, and that's a big risk because all of your overheads are being paid by that. So you need to spread your risk, and you need to build an independent business that preferably you can control yourself.
So a lot of time there's a gap between knowing what to do and doing what you know. So people say, oh, I know I should do that, but I don't do it. And one of the challenges is, although we work with distributors in terms of or clients in terms of we know they eventually understand the concept of how they should transform, yet it's not as easily done than as it is as easily said. So maybe we can share some of the experiences that we've had in terms of working or co-creating stuff. So kind of building that those habits and getting better buy-in.
Ramez, it's all about management of change.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you're going to try and change the way an organization behaves, you've got to transform from one way of doing things to a new way of doing things. You've got to take them through that as a journey. No one will change if you just say one day, okay, this is the way we want you to work. Just stop the way you've been working for 20 years and start the way that Ramez says. It kind of doesn't work like that. And what I've enjoyed in the last few years in particular is going into an organization, working with the management teams so that we can co-create the models. So using the frameworks that we both understand well of an outlet targeting model of where we want to hunt, or a distributor targeting model of how we want to partner, or even a sales approach of what we want to sell to.
The JBP.
The JBP.
Yeah.
You need to go into the organization and get the buy-in from the management teams. When I said buy-in, everything's got to be co-created. There isn't a textbook answer to a distributor targeting model. Everyone needs to be made specifically, and those managers need to create it. They need to create it and they need to own it. So, sorry to say, it's not all about training.
No, 100%. Yeah.
It's about workshops where you work together as a team with management teams, and you design the new process, and then you cascade that process through the organization, and you slowly get them used to it. You probably also don't do it across the whole organization in one go. You've got to, potentially take one region at a time or one country at a time, as we used to do when you were the managing director of UAE. We'd have to go and open up a new country and train those reps that month, and then hold their hand on and off for a good few months, or in your case, continuously. But in my case, just for a couple of months while they got set up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about management of change, and there's a lot of resistance to the change. You mentioned people's desire to learn. That's true. A lot of people are like that, but a lot of people like their
old way.
Their old ways.
Yeah.
Especially if their old ways is not very economical, as in if they're, they're not working quite as hard as they could do, for example. There's lots of reasons why these kind of new behaviors sound good, but in practice are very, very difficult to land. So you got to win hearts and minds.
And actually, I'll build on that. In organizations where we've had buy-in from the management team, the leadership team, to actually take the time to build it from the ground up, the change happened and it stuck. And in organizations where the leadership team says, "Oh, you go do this with the team," we look back and say, "Well, our experience says this is not going to work." And in a way, it's a no-go, right? Because if they're not willing to go through this transformation, then it is a waste of time. It becomes a tick box exercise. So the alignment has to be all throughout that leadership team buying into this is how we're going to transform as an organization to going from the way we used to do things to the way we want to be doing things, because it aligns to our mission, it aligns to our vision, and missions and visions that are still, utilizing old technologies are going to be quickly outdated.
Okay, this conversation could happen at a couple of different scales. I mean, obviously, when we are transforming an entire organization, the great book by Collins called Good to Great, and you need to have the right people on the bus.
Right.
There are people that want to grow as individuals, and they want to build skills, and they want to bring themselves into potentially a more modern, structured selling approach or whatever. And there are people who don't want to be in that kind of organization, unfortunately. And so in which case, if we're going to be moving to a new mold, we need people who are going to get on the bus. Okay, so I think that's an important thing. Obviously, if we're not operating at that structural scale, then fine. But I think if we're not, the other thing that's important is don't try and teach them something that they're not going to make more money from, or they're not going to be enriched. So if they're not going to be enriched by learning, and they are just enriched in their job and getting rewarded, then best you make sure with that 360 alignment again, that by following what you've asked them to do, you're going to earn more money. Because then greed will drive the process, unfortunately, which with a sales team, it's often
So at the end, people are, if it's going to make an impact, or if it's going to affect them, they're more likely to do something, about it.
they need to see results.
Absolutely.
Right? And I often think that actually just helping them do it the first time, it's little things like that. One thing I've always prided myself on, and yourself as well, is you're very capable of leveling yourself and having empathy with people at all levels. And that's important here. Talking as an external person, particularly one like me with an English accent or slightly English, slightly Afrikaans accent now, and coming out and saying, this is what you must do. You can't do that. You've got to empathize with people and understand that their livelihood's here, and they've been doing something and they're scared, and you're changing. So you've got to relate to people at all levels to make something like this change. I've always loved that.
And that's what I love about you is you do relate with people and you do take them with you. And I think it's we speak about it being a journey, this transformation. We're taking this organization on a journey with us. The leaders need to let their teams know it's not an overnight, let's say, success. It's a journey of transformation, and it's a never ending. And what we're seeing today is the speed by which people have to evolve, and companies have to evolve their processes and their systems and their ability that they're working. That is accelerating the speed by which this is happening. So it's a never-ending evolution.
Yeah, look, it's often a revolution, not an evolution. I must admit, my passion is the revolution piece. Like, let's really make a change. But obviously, there's lots of businesses at different stages, and a lot of people have started these journeys. A lot of people are very good at some of this stuff. And so there's evolutionary pieces as well as revolutionary pieces. I must admit, I really enjoy big change. I really enjoy big growth and those kind of challenges. But they don't come across all of the time. Not every company needs to revolutionize their sales approach. They need to just evolve it and fine-tune it in one particular area. Maybe just the targeting, maybe just the data, maybe just the evolution. Between us, we've got a very big spectrum of those techniques that could be applied to all kinds of organizations at all kinds of stages. And I think we're just got to be sensitive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. In the age of AI, artificial intelligence, will we need salespeople in the future?
Hey, look, I think relationships are king. I think, look, we could write a good questioning tree, and that machine would get down to what the chef needs, but the chef would never buy from the machine. The chef will need that rapport. They'll need to see that empathy themselves in their eyes. If they don't have that connection, it won't work. I think you taught me probably, but people buy from people they like. And I've made a special effort in my life to try and make sure that I always try and make friends with people. So I don't think AI is ever going to be my friend. So I think in the food service arena, possibly not. Look, there's ways it can definitely help us, particularly in terms of route planning, CRM, who we need to talk to, how we need to dive into the data. There is a plethora of stuff that I don't even understand as yet that can help us from a systems approach. But chefs don't buy from people that they don't know and trust, but they also don't buy without taste. So unless an AI computer is going to come and give you a sample of that product, I don't know, maybe a robot will, I suppose. But
I'll tell you, and I was asked that question at the uni, and I told the students, there will be no need for salespeople in the future if what they're selling is a me too product. In other words, if I can go online, I can buy it without any interaction with you. If that's my need, I don't even need you. However, the salesperson today, especially in food service, is selling a solution. So I'm not just showing up to sell you a product. I'm looking at the trend, what's happening in the market. What do the consumers want? What's in? How am I going to help you differentiate your outlet? I'll bring you insights. I'll bring you ideas. I'll bring you recipes. I'll help you be even more creative, give you ingredients. And now we're getting a full solution. So to building that relationship, understanding how to position your approach with a chef or with a barista or with a bar owner, I think is.
Oh, look, it's really interesting. You've got me thinking now. I mean, I guess the Heinz ketchup idea, AI could probably do it. And for a distributor to take a repeat order, there is a process here and we need to evolve. I think what we said at the start of this conversation was food service is a special piece of business to business. It's not all about food service. Most of this is or can be about business to business as well, not just food service. And AI could probably be quite important.
Absolutely. So just as a way of kind of wrapping things up in here, we spoke, predominantly about the food service channel. Yet today, we know food service is a B2B to C type of a model. And today, a lot of the principles can apply to other organizations that do a B2B type of an approach, right? So maybe a question or two there in terms of how do we help our audiences who are maybe managing whether their own direct teams or the teams of their selling through a distributor, how do we help them maximize the ROI that they're getting from the sales force that they are leading?
Yeah, look, the kind of techniques or the thoughts that we always have are around targeting models. So where do I spend my time? Time is money. So if I have resources, I have salespeople, regardless of whether they're in food service or whether they're selling, I don't know, oil or engine parts. The same theory is totally true. You need to spend your time profitably. So you need to allocate a certain amount of time to maintaining relationships, for example, certain amount of time for prospecting for new business. So people's time needs to be allocated cost effectively. And the simplest process of doing that is a prioritization model customized for each business that says, who are my top prospects and what are my top products? Literally, you just need to match those two, and hence we get back to target, monitor, and reward. But it's that time allocation of where am I calling? I can remember a long time ago where we had a business that basically had 3,000 outlets, and they would call on every outlet every month for 15 minutes.
Wow.
Right? For what? To say hello, to show their face, to build a relationship. And one of the first things that we did was cut that sales force, but we focused it on the 80% of customers who were our current core business and the 20% of customers who were our prospect new business. We made them 40-minute calls, not 15-minute calls, because there can't be any value in a 15-minute call. And we called on them once a month if they were in a priority group. So you classify customers as, say, let's use a cliche, but platinum, gold, silver. Yeah. And then there's a contact strategy. Contact strategy equals time allocation. Then you have the target, the monitor, and the reward, and you can draw the cash out of it. But I think there's a lot of business-to-business food service practice here in terms of the models that we apply, particularly to make sure that we get the best return from our salaried investment, whether it's ours or a third party's. In a lot of the normal business to business, this is applicable to key account, right? It's the same thing. There's a contact strategy for each type of customer, with each type of salesperson in each kind of organization. And believe it or not, a lot of companies still don't have those kind of time allocation models.
Absolutely.
I think that's where one of the things we specialize in.
Helping an organization ensure that they're covering their entire clients. So just simple time allocation. They're looking at frequency so you can realize, can I cover the number of outlets that I have? I'd even build on this, Stuart, where a contact strategy doesn't just mean the frequency. It also looks at who is the best person to contact the client. So we have telesales. There is a way of reaching a customer on the phone. You don't need to visit them every single week or every single month. So depending on what's the objective of the calls, and there are customers that love to hear from us by email or written communication. Today we have WhatsApp. There is automations on WhatsApp. There are so many different ways that still gets us to engage with the customer. And today more and more organizations have to look at a holistic approach, sales, support, and technology coming together to really give what we call the buyer's journey, give them that unique experience, give them that differentiation, so that we can have a common facade. We are as strong as the weakest link. So if one of these contact points fails, then the whole chain fails.
Contact strategy, I agree with you, is extremely important. Can, in some small way, what we're saying is start some kind of customer relationship management strategy.
That's right.
That's ultimately what we're talking about. Customer acquisition is absolutely king, especially when we're in the independent sector. But it might not be about acquisition. It might be about growing a customer that you're managing. So it's all different levels, but it's all customer relationship management, and trying to do that as professionally as you can, and for the best return on your investment of your staff.
Wonderful. So, the time flew by like this. I can spend another week talking with Stuart about good old war stories and successes, and really excited to have Stuart again available in this region. So feel free to reach out to us if there are things that you would like us to help support. Really excited about that partnership that we're bringing together.
Yeah, me too. My purpose in life is to share, to grow people. Ramez is a natural trainer. He's always wanted to train. My mother was a school teacher. I've always wanted to teach. So I have this set of skills, and my purpose in life is to share that set of skills with people who can become more prosperous. And they say that in my world, that's my spiritual purpose in terms of why I'm here, is to help people go forward. And I'm really looking forward to doing that in this region.
So this is, the famous Inspire One More, if you remember that. I'm actually wearing little cups that are given to me by Alan Bell, another one of our consultants. And Alan, this one is for you, buddy. Inspire One More. Again, we have another colleague, friend here, and together we're going to inspire a lot more.
That's our job.
Absolutely.
Thanks, bro.
Take care, man.
Thanks.
Pleasure. Until then, sell more, sell faster, and profitably. And forgot that one.